So I'm just going to go over some high protein foods and basically explain how you can increase your protein intake. And then you can refer back to this basically to help you hit your protein target for the day. And a rough guide is to try and aim for about 100 grams of protein. That's a good starting point. And then from there, try and aim to get roughly 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if you're 110 pounds or 130 pounds, it's not a whole lot more. If you're 180 pounds, 200 pounds, it could be up to double the amount. So plant protein sources. So why should you aim for plant protein? They're generally lower in fat, ethical reasons. They can, have a nicer texture or, be easier to digest. The main consideration is that they're a lower quality of protein typically than meat sources of protein. But for example, in stores like Trader Joe's or just any main grocery store, there's a much greater selection of plant protein available now. So absolutely no harm in just having basically, if not for the ethical reasons or for the, we'll say the nutritional reasons, simply to have extra options for protein. The more options you have, the easier, in my opinion, it's going to be to hit your protein target. So you can see here the variation in the percentage of protein. So it's like 15% protein for the Impossible meat, 84 for actual weight, supplementing with protein, which is great. That would be something that a lot of kind of vegetarians and vegans would use. Chickpeas then, they are very filling. They'll be high in fiber as well, but also they're lower in protein, but one of the higher plant protein sources. Tofu, it goes with a lot of different foods, easily cooked. So it's relatively high in protein as well. And then corn is in Europe and the UK, but there's lots of basically non-meat sources of meat that are available now, and they can be, up to 20 grams of protein. But here, this one has 10. So there's a few different options. But that's pretty much, it. For example, edamame is something I could have thrown in there, but they're not terribly high in protein and your sources are limited as a vegetarian or a vegan, but you can do it. You just have to plan a little bit more. And then for people who aren't vegetarian or vegan, it's extra options to help you hit your overall protein target. So then in terms of meat, you have your steak, 30 grams, ground beef, 21, turkey, 27, ham, 20, salmon, 21. So the differences in all of these would be that like the ham and the turkey would be lean, that have lower calories and lower fat, whereas the beef and the salmon would have higher fats. What some people say about red meat is that you don't want to eat too much because it's high in saturated fat, but really saturated fat is fine. Healthy omegas that are in the salmon are healthier, but it's the total calories that you consume, which is the biggest consideration. So for example, if you consume red meat as one of your main sources of protein, but you're not consuming in a deficit or a surplus, if you're consuming enough calories at like a maintenance, you're going to maintain your body weight. And assuming it's of a healthy body weight, your health will be, for the most part, it will be fine. That's assuming that you don't have any kind of like health conditions, you're not underweight, you're not overweight. So you would have to take the choice you make at an individual level to decide what's the best one. But basically getting a mix of all the different ones will cover most of your bases and you get most of the benefits. So having a mix of fish sources of protein will help you to get those healthy fats. And also the steak and ground beef, even though it is higher in fat, we do need fat. It is essential. Then we have dairy and poultry. So chicken, eggs, protein milk, Greek yogurt, and then whey protein, of course, as well. So these are all extra options that are all pretty high in protein, pretty, easy to eat in terms of they go with so many different things. So a meal that someone could have is, if they wanted to start off with a really high protein breakfast, they could have a bowl of porridge, which also has around 10 grams of protein per 100 grams. So for example, you might have 200 grams of porridge, that'd be 20 grams of protein. You might have 200 grams of Greek yogurt, which would be another 20 grams, would be 40 total. You could have a scoop of whey protein in there for a little bit of flavor. One scoop has about 25 grams. So now we are up to 65 grams if my maths is right. And then you could put in some protein milk for extra flavor as well. And let's just say you put 200 milliliters of protein milk in there. That's an extra 10. So you're talking 75 grams of protein in your first meal, and your goal is 75. That would be something I'd really recommend people try to do, is have the breakfast meal be the highest protein meal. In that way, then you get yourself off to a good start for the day. You don't have to worry about hitting your protein intake. And it's a nice habit to form. You just kind of, you're disciplined in your first meal, you take care of the protein, and you don't have to worry about it then going forward. Eggs have healthy fats. They're a good source of protein and a good source of fat. Chicken fillets are low in fat, but they're high in protein. They go with a lot of different foods, a lot of different meals. So they're a great source of protein. So overall, that's the sources I have. So we have the dairy, meat, plant, and that's your complete cheat sheet. So I'll attach this to the video, and hopefully that helps for people to hit their protein targets.